Welcome back, Guardian. My name is Ristophilus, and today we're going to talk about the Festering Core Grandmaster and the best builds for the Taken Grandmasters we're going to be facing here pretty soon, July 21st. So let's get started. What I want to mention first and foremost, though, there's a shitload of builds going around the community right now, and a lot of them crush in base game. I want to make that the key word, base game. But you put yourself in a 25 light under contest modifier, those builds, especially all these guillotine builds, they're not going to crush the ads like you're doing in these IL public events. I've tried it. I've even tried to launch, a 25 light under Nightfall and tried to fight ads, and it doesn't work. It just is not going to work at all, and especially you throw champions in there. Now, if you have a bubble and a sword, you can do the old cheese bubble method or whatever, or if you want to go God mode Titan, that'll work as well, but I'm telling you, a lot of these builds just aren't going to work like they are, and that's what I wanted to figure out, is what builds are going to work and give me more tactical advantage and control over all the situations, and that's what I have prepared for you today. I've been talking about people need to grind those free last wish chests and the menagerie for the Dreaming City gear armor, so you can put the Taken mods on the Dreaming City gear to make a good Taken Grandmaster build. Even though the DC gear is going to be retired in about 2 months, it's still going to be highly relevant for this DLC, so don't sleep on the menagerie and farming out some good statted armor to put those mods on, and don't sleep on those last wish chests because you're running out of time and they'll drop from those chests, and they're really needed this DLC, and in this video I'm going to show you why. So let's get started. Hit subscribe, become beast. Alright, for the first build in this video, it's going to be this one. It's involving Jotun. It's involving an Osmosis hand cannon, because I'm sure the Festering Core is probably going to have Unstoppable and Overload, maybe even Barrier also, but this is going to be build number 1, Jotun, because you're going to have a lot of those Cyclopses, and you're going to have a lot of those solar shielded captains that are taken that can really be a huge deadly problem when it comes to Grandmaster especially, and with Shield Disorient, you can control them when you bust their shield, and then take them out. You get 8 seconds of basically free damage to do what you want with them. And then also Hammerhead from the Forge with Shield Disorient, and if you can get Shield Disorient and Genesis, a huge beast, and it's probably going to be a mate of this DLC because of how much ad control you get and how many void shielded enemies there are in Taken Grandmasters, or really anything Taken involved. There's always a crap load of void shielded enemies, and that loadout with weaponry with the Osmosis hand cannon, that's going to cover you with every burn using an arc subclass as well. It's also going to use Enhanced Fusion Loader because Jotun's slow reload speed, Shield Break Charge because there's a crap load of shielded enemies in the Festering Core, and really any Taken Grandmaster in general. I'm also going to go over the strategy guide for the Festering Core to let you know how all this will play out. This build also has Taken repurposing. I'm also using Taken armaments to give me heavy ammo, and I'm also using Getaway Artist to go with the bottom tree art class. That way I have more damage going out, and Getaway Artist also procs armaments when you get a kill, so you can use that to your advantage in combat. I'll go over all kinds of gameplay with this build in a little bit to show you how everything is kind of going to go together. And then when it comes to your class item, you can choose Powerful Friends. Every time you're charged with light, you charge the entire team with light. Since this build is so powerful against Taken, you really don't need that much for your class item to give you any more benefit because it's already an overkill build that I'll show you later. Powerful Friends will also build back your mobility if you're low on mobility points, or you can go 10% and use High Energy Fire to get that, or you can go for All About Survival and use Protective Light, but either one's going to be good because you have Shield Break Charge, and it's always going to be procced in the Festering Core because almost every ad has a shield on it. Now we'll go back to that build later and I'll show you gameplay with it. This is the second build that is Universal Guardian class, so you can use it with a Hunter, you can use it with a Warlock, you can use it with a Titan, it doesn't matter at all. It goes with every one of them, and it involves rocket launchers and either Telesto or some kind of fusion rifle. This build also has Shield Break Charge as well. It's using Argent Ordnance to give you that 20% rocket damage, but I'm actually going to show you how you can increase that damage here in just a little bit. You can also notice that I'm using counter charge on every one of these builds. Anytime you break a shield on a champion or stagger a champion in general, you become charged with light. That's also going to give you High Energy Fire to give you bonus damage to help you break in their shield for damage phases after the first shield break phase. But anytime you use this build, it's always going to be procced with light because, again, the Shield Break Charge and how many shielded enemies are in there. It's also geared around the Void subclass using Oppressive Darkness, which goes back to Shield Break Charge, which goes back to Taken repurposing, so you're always going to have a ton of grenades with this build on, and you're always going to have heavy ammo with this build on, which is going to go with your rocket launcher because of Taken armaments and the amount of Taken, the amount of break and shields you're going to be doing, so both of those builds kind of synergize one off the other, so it really pairs well when it comes to ad control, and they both dominate champions, which I'm going to show you and kind of break this phase down. So you have a champion in front of you, you have counter charge. As I was saying earlier, anytime you stagger or take a shield off of a champion, that's going to charge you with light, and then when you have charge with light, it's also going to proc the Taken repurposing, so you're going to get your grenade back every time you bust that anti-barrier shield, which is then going to go to Oppressive Darkness, which is going to give you that 50% bonus damage increase and then weaken the enemy. And then on top of that, you're also going to be charged with light to proc your Argent Ordnance. And then on top of that, you're going to have the Taken Spec, which is another 10% of damage. This also drops from the Last Wish chest as well, or from the Last Wish raid, but that's going to give you overall a total of 80 to 82% of damage when you factor in the Oppressive Darkness and the Taken Spec. Now for your ad placement game, that's going to be Shield Break Charge to go with High Energy Fire. So no matter if it's a champion or an ad, you're always doing High Energy Fire bonus damage, or you're doing the Argent Ordnance bonus damage. So you're doing either 10 to 20 to 80% of damage no matter how you look at it, which is an incredible amount of damage for a rocket. Here's a situation of this right now. So we broke his shield, now we have the Godslayer Warhead in, and that's going to be an incredible 80% of damage if I would have had Oppressive Darkness. Right there it was only 20% because I don't have the Taken Spec because he's not a taken enemy. I was going to launch the IO public event and get one of those champions, but they're just such a weak champion, so I just launched, a regular, Nightfall to just have this champion in here just to capture this footage you're seeing right now. But it's really powerful against champions. That's what I really was trying to get at. Every time you bust it with countercharge, I either have that Jotun 10% damage, or if I have any other weapon that has Taken Spec and he's a taken enemy, I can get 20% of damage. And then on top of all that, I have Taken Armaments. So 10, 20 to 80, or even 82% of damage if I'm using Impact Casing. And don't forget, on each damage phase that I bust their shield, I get my Oppressive Darkness back for each one of those damage phases in Grandmaster. Here's the build top to bottom. This is the universal class that I just went over. So you can take a screenshot of the build that you just saw a second ago. This is the same one. I'm just showing you top to bottom just how it looks. It's Universal Guardian and Universal subclass, but it works really well with Oppressive Darkness on Void. Here's an example of Getaway Artists using Taken Armaments. So you can weaken all these little red bar ads and then have Getaway Artists finish them, which then procs the armaments. And this is also Beast with Taken Repurposing as well, because I can throw my grenade while having the Getaway Artist projectile shooting out. And then on top of that, I get it back every time I bust their shield, so I can keep just tossing grenades. And also with the Shield Disorient Hammerhead that I recommend farming out from the Forge, every time I bust their shield, they're going to be disoriented for 8 seconds. And then to knock that off, I have the Jotun with that hella tracking and hella damage for all the snipers and all the Cyclopses throughout this entire encounter all the way to the very finish of it. So it controls the entire situation, and that's what I'm going to talk about now is the weaponry with that Getaway Artist build and why I recommend it for the entire Festering core and how it plays out. So the Festering core has all 3 style burns, and it's also probably, again, like I said, going to have anti-barrier, overload, and possible unstoppables. So having a hand cannon with osmosis is going to cover your burn since you're going to be using Getaway Artist with the arc subclass. So having a lot of arc damage going out in a Grandmaster sense versus these arc harpies is just going to be all beneficial, not counting if you're using high energy fire out of one of those 3 class item choices that I showed you earlier. Getting that 10% bonus damage can really come in clutch on the areas before you actually get to the Taken, and then when you get to the Taken boss fight, there are going to be a ton of harpies in there as well. Or if you even decided to use the powerful friends, every time you bust their shield, you're then again with the shield break charge going to empower your friend or give them charge of light. This is going to go with your Argent Ordnance for your other teammate in his universal class build that I also mentioned earlier. The next weapon is going to be Jotun. Again, what I was saying earlier, there's going to be a lot of long distance shots you're going to be needing to make, and you need to make those shots hit hard and give you plenty of ad control. There's really no better weapon choice for this build because of what you're going to need this weapon for. And again, it's going to go back to those Cyclopses and more so those Taken Captains. And there's also going to be those Taken Knight Captains that have red bar shields during the boss fight. So being able to control them just by simply popping their shield with that shield disorient is going to be hella beneficial for not only you but your entire team. And again, if you use the powerful friends with the shield break charge, you're going to charge your team with light every time you do this, no matter if you're using the hand cannon with the osmosis on an arc shield, using the solar shield, or for your heavy weapon using that hammerhead with the void shield and all the void enemies. The only thing that Jotun won't track is an invisible minotaur. But when I go over the strategy guide later and all the ads and the ad layout, you'll see why the Jotun fits perfectly into this Getaway Artist build, just because of how everything's going to play out. Especially, like I said, those Cyclopses, the Red Bar Knights, any kind of champion damage, and for the boss damage. It just gives you a ton of tactic that really no other weapon can give you. So it doesn't really matter if you do or don't like Jotun, you can't change the fact that it fits perfectly in this Grandmaster when it becomes the Grandmaster. There's just too much advantage you get out of this weapon, not counting the other benefits and the mods and the perks and the build itself. Now on to the hammerhead that I was talking about earlier. This is going to be a godly add clear weapon no matter what Taken Grandmaster you're going to be doing, because every one of them, as I was saying earlier, has a crap load of void shields in it, and when you have shield disorient and armor piercing rounds, which gives you 8% of damage, and then Taken spec, plus the charge with light, if you choose that option, that's 28% of damage when it comes to shielded enemies, and this is without having any kind of like shield disorient or genesis. This is not even a Grandmaster level, and they completely take control over me. So this is again why I recommend having shield disorient, because if you don't have it, they'll just overrun you before you even know it, and you can't really stand toe to toe like you can with the shield disorient version. So that's why I recommend farming out the shield disorient, and that's what the game's about. It's a grind game. You find weapons that become really beneficial, and that's what you get out of having the Genesis or the shield disorient version, or like I said, if you have both, that's an ultimate god roll version for this entire season. And then when you mix that in with Jotun, with that long range tracking to take out any snipers, and then you mix it in with the Taken armaments and the Taken repurposing with the getaway artist to get that damage going out, and you get the shield disorient on top of that, any kind of Taken add encounter you encounter is going to refill your weapon. If you have the ultimate, shield disorient Genesis god roll, you'll keep being able to fire back to back to back with no reload and disorient everybody in your way on top of that. That's why I recommend just trust me on this. Farm this weapon out this DLC, because when you put this build all together, it makes complete sense on why this is a god roll weapon. Even though it might be an older weapon, it still completely dominates any kind of Taken activity. But unfortunately, it is going to be sunsetting here real soon, but either way, I'm farming out weapons just to use for the present time, which is this season. And for this season, you really won't find very many heavy weapons that give you that kind of tactical advantage and the range on top of that. You can't do these kind of tactics with the guillotine sword, even though it does hit hard on single targets and things like that. Like I was saying earlier, when you get toe-to-toe with the Grandmaster, you're going to need a very specific type of loadout. You're not going to be able to go in there like you are on the IO public event and start, twirling around with your guillotine sword. It's just not going to work like that like you think that it will be, and people forget how hard Grandmaster is when they start a new season because of how they crush in the season mode and using all these new builds and things like that, or these perks like Precision Charge. You're not going to be chaining very many precision kills when it comes to console and Grandmaster. The time to kill is just going to take too long. The accuracy isn't like it is on PC, as I've said a million times. The no kick, no recoil, the perfect movement, and stuff like that. You're just not going to get a lot of that utility like you will out of weapons that are immediate utility, such as the shield disorient, such as the Taken spec, the counter charge, and Taken repurposing, Taken armaments. All this stuff is easily farmed. You just got to take your time out and go actually do it, and start now before the Grandmaster hits. That way you're ready and prepared, and you didn't wait till the last day. I'm not saying that most of those new seasonal mod things won't work, like Lucent Blade and Surprise Attack, but as I was saying earlier, when it comes to a Grandmaster sense, and you can only be 1 to 2 shot, up to 3 shots sometimes against some ads, it just depends on the ad, but they hit extremely hard in Grandmaster is what I'm getting at. And a lot of these sword builds or these sidearm builds, the stuff that you're currently seeing, it might slay out in, IO public events or in the dungeon or whatever, but, I've got enough experience to know that that stuff is going to go right out the window day one of Grandmaster, and I could do the same thing. I could make 100 different builds of those build combinations, and they'd all slay in base game, but then I got to ask myself why, because I'll never use them, and I only really like to play Grandmaster and solve the puzzle of how I can formulate strategies and stuff that carves and pushes through Grandmasters at the most effective rate, basically. And that's what we're going to talk about for the last half of this video, is some cool strategies and tips you can do in the Grandmaster, starting off with this tip. So when you first charge that first plate, and then you come to the Taken battle of everything, there's this pipe you can climb up and come right up here for a really good vantage point that covers the entire area of all the Taken. You are going to need the correct burn weapons, such as the build that I have on today, using the Getaway Artist build. That way you can shield disorient all these Taken captains you're going to see up here. But once you clear out all these ads, if you look to the left, you can have your other 2 teammates battle it out over there while you chill over here and get that long range advantage if you wanted to. You could also have somebody with a sniper rifle or a bow, or really just whatever, or if you're doing a solo strategy, you could solo your way all the way using this top strategy part. When I first found this part, I made sure that nobody else had found it, so I didn't have to shout anybody out for their strategy, but it seems like nobody else knows about this area, so feel free to come over here and use it. It's highly effective. But if you have another person with Jotun on, you can have them fire across the map to take out all the Cyclops. You could also shoot, some kind of void weapon over there. You can, shoot a rocket over there if you want to have the rocket person come over here while everybody else is slaying on the opposite side of the map. But once you get done taking out the 2 Cyclops, you can just kind of chill over here, take out both the ogres. The ogres are the only thing that can hit you other than the Cyclops. So you do have to watch out for them. In Grandmaster, the snipers might have enough reach because, you know, the harder the difficulty, the more, you know, aggro they become and the farther out they can reach and see you, whatever. So you might can get sniped by this thing over here, and there might actually be a champion over here, but we still don't know that. But again, Jotun can, you know, map everybody from this location. It's just a cool tip that I found when I was over there that I didn't really pay attention to in the strike version because I mostly just run past that and crush all the way through. Now for the second area, this is going to be your first little plate of, you know, taking charge plates or whatever. And it's real crucial that you know this in Grandmaster because I can see a ton of teams fucking this up on their first run. So let's get into this part. So obviously take out the Cyclops and all the ads when you first come across, but it's very, very crucial that you do not charge that plate that's closest to you that I'm standing on right now. Because if you choose to do that one first, it spawns every ad that's supposed to come out when you charge both the plates. So that means you're going to have another ogre and you're going to have a red bar flame throwing knight on top of having all these multiplying scion taken enemies that will end up draining your entire team's ammo reserves because by the time you kill one of them, 4 more will just multiply out of nowhere, and not counting when this becomes a Grandmaster and they're a lot harder hitting, and you have that knight over there that's throwing fire on you over and over again. I'll show you the way you can do this, but I wanted to leave this gameplay in just to show you how hectic it can be, and keep in mind, this is not even near what Grandmaster is going to be. This is just me figuring out the layout of the strike and how the ads all, you know, function and where their, you know, placement points are and their control zones and stuff like that, but I can already see this being a huge problem on the Grandmaster version. If I were to charge this plate first, you have all these ads spawning out, and then boom, all your ammo is basically going to be gone. So what you want to do is you walk over here and you aggro and kill all these ads first. This is probably going to be an unstoppable taken. I'm sure it will be. It might not be. It could probably stay that yellow bar. But once you kill that and you charge that plate, it's just going to spawn an ogre, which could be an unstoppable or, you know, an overload champion. And then it's going to also spawn that red bar knight that you can easily shield disorient and kill very easily. I'm using a bow for this footage, but I recommend that Osmosis hand cannon for the reasons that I said earlier about the shield burns. After you kill that knight, then what you're going to do is go charge that plate that you know are close to when you first cross this area. And this is why another reason that I recommend the bottom tree art class, because you can just shit all over them real easy, stagger them with landfall, and just knock them out with one whim without having to worry about a knight flaming at you or an ogre blasting at you. The next area you're going to come to is before the boss battle, and you may or may not need this area before the boss battle, but I thought I would include it anyways. There's probably going to be champions where the Minotaur that are invisible spawn at, so you might have like an overload Minotaur over there. I'm not 100% on that because obviously it's not the Grandmaster version, but you can jump on this blight. I'm not 100% if hunters can make this jump, but I'm at a 4+ traction, which is a 5 mobility, and it can make it just fine. But what you do is before the ads spawn, you're going to want to jump right here and then turn right, head all the way to the very back, and then watch out for the blight pushing wall things, because in past nightfalls, you know, they can kill you or hurt you really bad. I'm not 100% if that's still going to be the case or not, but 2 out of the 3 Minotaur you can be able to kill. The third one hides in the very back, so you might want to kill 2 and then push forward. And Jotun won't track invisible Minotaur unless you can actually see them. So if they're in their invisible state, it won't track them at all. But this is a good location because the wizard can't see you and the other ads won't be able to hit you either. And then after you kill the 2 Minotaur, you can cross right back around and use your shield disorient and any kind of range weapon or the Jotun once you pop the shield off to take care of both the wizards or all 3 of the wizards. And then once you kill all them, you just go back, charge all the plates. And in the regular Nightfall version, the only ads that spawn are weak Taken kind of Thrall, and you can use Taken armaments with the Getaway Artist to refill your heavy ammo up in preparation for the boss fight. So it's a real good fill all your heavy ammo part before you actually encounter the boss battle. And that's what we're going to go to next, is the final encounter. This is where the entire loadout really shines, but when you first enter, you're going to see some snipers. There's probably going to be some champions here, I'm sure of it. There's also going to be that red bar, a lot of shielded enemies here, so you can, you know, get charged with light ready for the boss battle if you need to. But one thing I recommend doing is walking around and exploding all the exploding blights that are used for bombs, because if you're having to run around anywhere, you don't want to get caught up by one of those and have that be a death. So go ahead and set them off. They don't come back once the battle starts, at least in the regular Nightfall version. There's only one area you need to really know about, and that's right under here, this kind of like cave, kind of like walkway, hallway little area, and then this area. So to the left, you're going to see the Saturn looking blight in the very top left of the map, and then to the right, you're going to see that red light against the wall. So I'm going to kind of just familiarize yourself with this entire area. You see the red dim light over there, and then if you look up, you'll see the Saturn rings around the blights. there's the red light, and then to the left is the Saturn rings around the blights. That's the main area you want to sit back at that no ads really go to until the last encounter. So when the boss first starts, you're going to do damage to him, and then the first wave of ads are going to be void shielded enemies. But like I said, if you got that shield disorient heavy weapon, really easy takeout here, and you can charge yourself with light to prep yourself for the boss battle so you have high energy fire going. Or if you have, powerful friends on, you can charge your team with light by doing that. There's going to be a sniper in the very back. Anytime you see a blight like that they pop up, the ones that have that burst fire, anytime you shoot those with a Warmind weapon, it'll make a cell. Just a little tip you need to know about. So if you're using a Warmind weapon, that's a guaranteed way you can make a cell by shooting those. But this is the location of the ads for the first 2 encounters of ads in this entire boss battle. It's going to be void shielded enemies with that sniper in the very back. I'm going to show you the second wave now. It's going to be the same situation that happened the first time. A bunch of void shielded enemies, same locations to the right, in the center, and to the very left, and with a sniper in the very back. I obviously don't know if there's going to be any champions, but for the first 2 boss waves, as long as it remains exactly the same, which I don't see why it would even change, it's going to have those void shielded enemies on the first 2 waves. This also goes for the last 2 waves, but there's a slight variation on the last final wave. But as far as the ads and the layout and how they spawn, they're the same shield type enemies, same type of enemies, but there's some invisible minotaurs that might be champions in the Grandmaster version. So when you take out the second wave of ads, go back to do your boss damage. This is when all 3 shield burns are going to come out, and again, why this is a perfect loadout for the Grandmaster, because there's also going to be a Cyclops in the very back, where Jotun's tracking, range, and damage is going to be highly useful. So as long as you're standing in that spot that I told you about, with the Saturn rings on the blight and the red light, straight across the map is where that first Cyclops is going to be, and the second Cyclops. It looks like it might be in a random location during the Strike version, but if you're not familiar with that area, it will appear that way. But when I did the Nightfall version, I realized it was actually in the same spot both times. So when you're across the map all the way, you get a better vantage point on that Cyclops. I'm not in that location right now. I'm just showing you the shield burn enemies and how, they move around and things. They'll be fighting themselves the entire time. So your whole team can actually sneak over there to that Cyclops and take it out. And then again, using Getaway Artists with the Osmosis Hand Cannon for the arc shield enemies, and then your shield disorient, which will actually disorient all the enemies around, including Jotun, that are standing by the shield enemy you busted. So once you pop 1 shield with shield disorient, you pretty much can control that entire area. And if you have somebody with rockets as well, and with powerful friends to get Argent Ordnance, or if you're just doing the high energy fire one, it really just crushes that whole area, and the ads shouldn't be any threat at all. So once you take out every ad, go back to that same location where you have the red light across the map, the blighted Saturn rings to the left, and start doing boss damage. He should stay in like one specific location. He doesn't move around that much. But the last wave of ads is going to be right here. The Cyclops is going to go right back over there again. And again, why you use Jotun, because that tracking, range, and the damage all the way across the map to easily take him out, and you're far enough away to where he can't cage you, but he might still be able to cage you in the Grandmaster version, since they have more range and reach and stuff for the kind of damage and how they can see across the maps and stuff. But the ads are all going to spawn the same, so Shield Disorient, Osmosis. You see the Phalanx in the very background? That's the only variation, including an invisible Minotaur that spawns. If you don't kill the Phalanx, they'll actually follow you over when the last wave of the invisible Minotaur spawn. They'll move out of their control zone location. So right now they're kind of stationary over there, but when these ads spawn, that's when they can move around the entire map. But at this point, there's no more ads, so you can actually move freely around this entire map to battle it out if there's a champion or whatever. But you can see the Phalanx walking over here, easily crush them out. That's why you can go underneath that area, that hallway area that I'm at right now. But like I said, you can move around freely in this entire battle. After you've taken out every ad wave, and that invisible Minotaur, which might be an overload champion, usually kind of chills in the middle of the entire area. But once he's killed, it's just you and the boss, and you can go ahead and take him out any way that you see fit. You can save your super the entire battle. You probably won't even need it because of the weapon loadout that you're choosing to use with the Shield Disorient. You can control everything in this entire area. So if you want to save your super for that final boss crush using Landfall, whatever you want to use basically. But that's the entire strategy for the entire Festering core, which could probably be one of the harder Grandmasters, but if you know the perfect strategy and the loadout to go with it, you control everything in that whole Grandmaster, which is greater than really any other loadout that I've been able to find when I've practiced on it all week and tried to familiarize myself with the whole area. For the last part of the video, I'm going to show you my anything goes, kind of run and fun gun build or whatever. I replaced Oppressive Darkness in place with Quick Charge. I'll pop the video up right here. If you're using the Void subclass, then use overload grenades if it's applicable, you know, but obviously if there's no overloads, use reserves or whatever. But this is for all Guardians, Hunter, Titan, or Warlock. Anything you want to use, just put that on. If you use Telesto with it and a rocket, you'll be charged with light all the time with Telesto. It's kind of a broken, like, just anything kind of goes build. That's what I use all the time, basically. But I'll kind of show you the example of this. So I just got that double kill, and now I'm charged with light. So the entire boss battle in this IO public event, I stayed charged with light against the boss. And when you have a 10% damage boost with high energy fire, which is what this has on it, plus taking repurposing and taking armaments, 10% on a Telesto is a lot of damage because it hits hard already. So you can just sit here and just keep spraying this guy down the entire time. And I also have my rocket on, which has Argent Ordnance on, or if I'm using Trackless Waste, but anything goes with this build. It's a great IO public event, just patrol, gambit, just anything that you want to use. It's geared out just for having fun, basically. And with Telesto and Quick Charge, it's really easy to get double kills with it. So all you do is just sweep a quick double kill and then pull your rocket out. You get Argent Ordnance with that, which is going to be 30% bonus damage with taking spec. Similar to the build I just showed you a second ago. Here's a situation where I knocked both of these guys out. Now I'm charged with light, so I get the 10% damage with Telesto. I run out of ammo, and then I have 10% damage with my Trackless Waste. So I can just sit here and stay charged with light and just drill this guy the entire time when I am out of ammo. But when I get my grenade back, I have taken armament, so I just go find a taken real quick and then easily get my heavy ammo back. But this is a really fun build, especially with the Telesto's ammo economy. You hardly do ever run out of ammo, but I kept this clip in just to show you Trackless Waste, how it can still crush and stuff. But I can take out almost every ad in this entire IO public event. I thought y'all might enjoy that too if you're looking for just a good, just get it done build, basically. That one has really good like ad control and boss DPS properties on it, especially when you get the field prep with the boss spec, with the Argent Ordnance, to get that back-to-back bonus damage, that 30%, which on a rocket really does crush. But like I said, you use it on Gambit or anywhere else as well. But that's all I got for y'all today, Guardians. I appreciate your time and y'all watching this video. When it comes to Festering Core, and this is the Grandmaster Nightfall, you know the loadout that I'm going to be using on it that'll crush pretty much the whole way through, and the strategy at the boss. So again, my name is Ristopoulos. If you want to support the channel, you can join our Beast Squad, or you can just hit subscribe to support me and leave that thumbs up. That helps my ratings as well. But I appreciate your time, Guardian. Screenshot those builds, study them, put them together. Do the menagerie to farm a Dreaming City helmet and chest piece, and take advantage of those free Last Wish mods. They are going to be useful. But anyways, I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you all in the next video next time.
In space.